grab one, like where our homework normally is. I put P to M up here also because that's easier to write in your plan book. It's called the follow-up, like on the paper it says follow-up. So if you don't have one yet, grab it. Looks like this, right? I mean, you should have it from back there. What does it look very, very, very similar to? The original mastery. We're not going, like, you do not have to do corrections to the mastery because I'm going to show you all the right answers right now. Regardless of if you correct your chapter 4 mastery, so you can't just like come up to me and say, here, I fixed it. Well, yeah, I'm about to show you all the answers. Of course you could fix it. Everyone is doing the follow-up. There's no other homework tonight. It's just this. Everybody's doing the follow-up. So, as we go, you have to advocate for yourself and tell me if something doesn't make sense. So for my people that hadn't done the test the first time, or for my people who didn't finish it, write down whatever you want. You are welcome. That's your copy. Or did you give Kyra one? Yes. Yeah, no. One is for you and one's for Kyra. You can write down anything you want as we go. And then before you leave my room, my advice, because this is what I'm going to expect when you turn this in. Before you leave, grab your follow-up, because you should have at least 10 minutes to work on this at the end of class, and your original test, and you are stapling your follow-up to the original test. Because if you make notes on your original test right now, that's a reference page while you're doing the follow-up, right? They're very, very, very similar questions. So as you look at number 1, yeah, I already gave you feedback on this one, but like this is where you should look at critically at what you did right or what trapdoor you maybe fell into. Did you accidentally add 7 and 3 first? That was the most common mistake. Does addition happen first? No. We know grouping symbols happen first. Can I add 2 to that x? No! So we can't do that. So we get to multiplication, and we have to draw those arrows. You should be making notes on your paper to like remind you of what trapdoor you fell into or how you did this right to make sure that on the follow-up, you're still able to do it correctly. Watch out for -4 in part B. And you might be thinking, Hudson, that's -4. Can we -4 from 3y? No, because I can't take 4 away from some amount of y's. I don't know what y is. So that's not -4, that's -4. 2 times -4, -8. Now you could write 6y minus 8. 6y minus 8 would also be fine. 14 plus 20. Any questions on how I got these answers? This is recording. You can come back to this video as many times as you need to. So the biggest trick here is we don't add, unless it's like inside parentheses and we're able to, you don't add till after we do pretty much everything else. So that trapdoor in A was the biggest thing that got people. In part B, there's a couple more negatives to watch out for. In number 2. Especially part B of number 2. Because there you end up having -7 times negative. And I wrote this out so we can see it because I knew that I was going to take a video of this. If you got this wrong or if you didn't do it, you should probably be writing some of the work that goes with it of, oh yeah, the arrows are telling me to do this. I do that. I cannot add x's and constants or n's and constants. So we get stuck at the end with a binomial because we can't do that addition. Questions on 1 or 2? Guys, you got to speak up if it still doesn't make sense. Rad?
Can you go to the question 1 real quick?
Yeah. Especially because you had ran to the library. That used to be our library because you had ran to the family room. Yeah, B's honestly, well, A and B are the trickiest. C's honestly like the easier one in part one. Because A, you got to watch out, don't add first, and B, you got to watch out for the negative. Go ahead, Jay. Hey, I've been told my pencil sharpener seems to be going, and soon will be gone. I need to get a new one. I have been told it kind of sucks. Can I add x's with y's? No. Can I add x's with constants? No. Some of us fell in the trap of forgetting this. If I was you right now, especially if you didn't get this right, I would get 2 different colors of highlighters, or highlight just one of the types of terms. So I highlighted only my x's in part A. I could have highlighted my other numbers in a different color. I just left them unhighlighted. The other things we gotta watch out for are those negatives. So ask yourself, did I get this right? If not, why did I not get it right? And make a note right now. Maybe you make a note of watch out for the negatives. Maybe you make a note of can't add unlike terms. Jay, you good me? That's what I'm asking, because I can tell you're spaced out somewhere else. You do not need to be putting checks next to, you can, but I'm not looking at your original test again, because I looked at everyone's work. By the way, in case we haven't talked about this, step 1 of me grading is I look at everyone's stuff before writing on it. Then I go back and I start writing on things. Then I go back and finally give them P's, M's, whatever your grade actually is. Halfway through my step 2, I decided I should stop writing and we should just go over this together. Yes. Did you make it positive or negative?
No positive.
I wonder if that's what I was trying to indicate. Link, you with me? Because you don't have all of this done, and you're trying to stack highlighters. If I was you, I'd be taking some more notes. Questions? Yeah. What do you mean? I need you to say more. You mean like versus not like terms? So these use other letters, but when we talk about x versus y, are these the same? So can I talk about them together? So that is why we cannot add not like terms. But if I have multiple x's, I can talk about all these together because they're all the same. But x compared to x squared, even though they use the same letter, they're not like because they're not the same. So if you need to discuss that more with me, feel free to come see me. But that's our reminder of visually, are they the same? If the answer is no, we cannot put them together. And remember, our ones or our negative ones, those are all these guys, right? The little squares. So our ones or negative ones were all just the little squares that, yes, we can put those together. All right. Number 4, guys, the trapdoor here. And yes, I could try to get rid of all the trapdoors, but then you'll never learn to avoid them. They give number of tulips, then money. But then they give money, and then number of tulips. Look at your paper. Some of you fell into the trap of you took first number divided by second number, which was fine for Flynn's flowers, but it was not fine for Tony's tulips. Look up here real quick. If you did not highlight cost per tulip, I would highlight cost per tulip right now. When we're trying to find a per, when we're being asked about a per, what do we have to do? What does per have us do? Add, subtract, multiply, divide. Oh, I'm not using card. You guys are going to shout stuff out today. I'm not trying to stress people out. Divide. So when they ask us for cost per tulip, we need to be doing the dollars divided by how many tulips. Order matters. We need to be doing dollars divided by number of tulips, because cost per tulips. Now there are other ways to do this, but this is what in my brain seems to make sense. Any questions? What's funny is Dr. Flynn just walked by. I kind of wanted him to peek in and see the fact that we're talking about twins flowers. I don't know why I walked over here to do this. I could have clicked it up there. A lot of you seem to psych yourself out on this question because there were a lot of words. Like when I was looking at people's work, you seemed like you psyched yourself out. Guys, you gotta remember, I write these tests and I try to give you hints. The hint I give you here is to try to figure out how far what. Yeah, that each of them could go in an hour. Are any of them already done for you? Yeah. Lightning. Lightning's already in an hour. We know how far lightning goes in an hour. How many 30 minutes do we need to get an hour? 2. So we take 30 minutes and double. Right? So if you're taking notes, what I didn't write here is that we do times 2. And that also happens on top. Now wait, how did I get from 252 to 21? And if you pay attention to the labels, Isaac, is that a hand? I can't tell. Since there are 12 inches in a foot, right? If we have a number of inches, 12 inches equals 1 foot, right? So we should have more inches than we do feet, because feet is a bigger measurement. So we take 252, divide by 12 to figure out the number of feet. That's how we got our 21 feet. Zippy is not so zippy. How many 10 minutes do we need to make?
6.
I was trying to decide color. Sorry, I should not have used yellow up there on my blue. We got 10 minutes. So to go from 10 to 60, we do times 6. And we actually found out Zippy is the slowest.
What's an L for Zippy?
Yeah, sorry. All because you name yourself something cool doesn't mean that matters.
Old May.
Monsa? Yeah, Old May won. Who would have thought? Who would have put their money on Old May? Sorry, what? Yeah, you could have done that as long as you still got like the same result. Any other questions on this one? You did not have to do feet per hour. There were other ways to do it. Okay? Sorry, I couldn't tell if that was a hand coming up or if you were just... We good? Any other questions? Alright, and number 6. If Mr. Combs knows how much gas it takes him for 400 miles, how do we get to 1,000? Guys, what if we don't know 400 to 1,000? What do we do to figure out this? How do we figure out that 2.5? Who can remind me if we don't know what to multiply by? If we divide what? Divide it backwards, right? So if you need to make this note on your paper, you might want to make that note on your paper. If you can't just figure out, like some of us just know it. Like we've done enough math practice, we know 400 to 1,000 times 2.5. But unless you know that, I don't expect you to. I mean, I do because I've been doing math for like 30 years. Unless you know that, we divide backwards to figure it out. Questions on how we figured out 45 gallons? Because what we did on the bottom, we gotta do on the top.
I got like 46 and I made it over.
Check what number you used across the bottom. Like, I'm betting you didn't use 2.5 and maybe you just typed something in your calculator wrong.
I got 2 repeating.
You typed in something in your calculator wrong. Yeah, I'm willing to bet you clicked your calculator wrong and did not catch yourself. That you just typed in a number wrong. All right, and number 7, Mrs. Pettigrew, I think when she retires, she needs to open a bakery. We'll see if she still wants to. She is a really good baker. Like, She's really good. No joke. So this is why I put her into this problem. Now, the Miss Hassanin question, I made that up, but this is true about Mrs. Pettigrew. Although I don't know that she would take this long. I have no idea how long it takes Pettigrew, so I made up the data here. I did not make up that she's a great baker. So, how many 15 minutes to make an hour times 4, right? We can look at the clock and figure that out, or you can ask a parent or something. Or how do we go from 15 to 60? I sure hope we all know 60 minutes in an hour at this point. Then, if I want to get to 80, and I don't know what to multiply by, divide backwards. That gets us times 5. Now, you could have also gotten 300 minutes. 300 minutes is also, because that is 5 hours. So if you got the answer of 300 minutes, you're also correct. Yeah. It just sounds ridiculous when you say 300 minutes. 5 hours still sounds kind of ridiculous. I mean, that's a long time to do something. But like, if it was your job, I mean, people do their job for 8 or 9, 10 hours a day some days. I've been here since 7 o'clock this morning. So when it's worth doing, sometimes you put a lot of time into it. Questions on 7? Number 8. Also, partially true story. My brother is actually Brad. He is older than me. When I was 6, in 1995, I was 6. He was 12. So he was working his first job, delivering papers on a bicycle. Yeah. Yeah. Back in the day, it was easier to get a job when you were young. You could just get paid like under the table. You didn't necessarily have to have tax forms. Also, it was Coshocton. I don't talk much about my hometown, but things are different out in Coshocton. Yes, it's just kind of like more country, whereas this is more city. So, anyone notice anything fun about the 180 papers and 3 hours?
That's a lot of papers in such a short amount of time.
Because 180 divided by 3 is just 6. Like
Well,
divided by
and how many minutes are in 3 hours?
180.
It's 180. Guys, what this problem's doing is a paper every minute. A paper, which if you imagine riding through a neighborhood, and like you've got bags of papers on your side, you just grab it and throw it, it wouldn't even probably take you a minute per house. Now in Coshocton, houses are farther spread out, because here in the city, people like build tight together. So this is probably close to true of what it would have taken my brother. In some houses, you got to walk it up and put it in wherever, because the old person doesn't want to walk all the way down the driveway. Like, yeah, you got to do certain things for certain people. It's about a minute per house. I'll have to ask him what he got paid for that back in the day.
My mom said it was easier to get a job back then because child labor laws weren't.
So pretty loose. Yep.
She worked at a
Child
diner
murder,
beside
husband.
this.
How do we go from 6 to 27? I don't know that. Like, legit, I don't know that. So, to figure it out, we do the division. And that's how we figure out 4.5. So then, if we get it on the top, we got to do it on the bottom. We get 4.5 inches. You got to make your labels agree. You could have also set up 1 inch over 6 miles and just done this whole thing upside down. Like, that's perfectly fine. Just if you put miles on bottom, you got to keep miles on bottom. If you put miles on top, we keep miles on top. If wherever we put things, we got to keep them there. Questions? I'm trying to wrap this up in the next 7 minutes, so you guys have the last 10 minutes to get a head start on the follow-up assignment. And you can work together also. Totally made up. No idea if Miss Hassanin actually likes model trains or not. My hunch is probably not. But, you know, maybe. Who knows? Maybe she's into model trains. So if Miss Hassanin is a trainiac and has this model train engine that is 6 inches long compared to the actual 42 feet, again, you could have put feet on bottom. I don't care. I just put feet on top just because. Like, there's no right or wrong. But since I put feet on top, I keep feet on top. Scale factor, if you needed to look back in number 9, skill factor wants to know per 1 of something. So 7 feet per 1 inch, or I mean, you could have done the other skill factor of per 1 foot, but it would have been like a 1/7 of an inch. It would have been like an awkward number. This one's much nicer, of 7 feet to 1 inch. Anyone confused how I got my skill factor of every 1 inch is worth 7 feet? We can see it, it makes sense. So then, my apologies. I think I told you guys this when we were working on it. This first part, the text seemed to confuse some of you guys. What mattered is that we wanted to get to 182 feet. So how do we get to 182 feet? I don't know. I legit don't know. So here, to figure it out, we divide backwards. And that's how we get our 26. Questions? By the way, you can be using your pencil right now. I just wanted to make sure that you had a highlighter, a pen, something to make it jump off the paper. If you want to write more with your pencil, I see some people trying to write with their highlighter. That's kind of tough. You can write with your pencil right now. I just wanted you to be able to highlight some things as we go. I'm not looking at your original test. Well, let me say that differently. I'm not grading your original test anymore. Like, if you turn in your follow-up and it's still bad, like shows you don't know what you're doing, then we together might look at both of those and see what notes you took while I went over this. See, did you try to help yourself? Questions on Miss Hassanein's train? Miss Hassa train? No? Okay. So moving on. I'm surprised none of you guys got there. This one should not be difficult. Some of us just didn't get to it. Like, I think you just ran out of time. You were taking time on other parts of it. But we can check what's the skill factor. If we need to, you could divide backwards. What is 16 divided by 4? Or I think most of us know. How do I get from 4 to 16? And then since we know it's times 4, we can do times 4. That's how we get our 20. Sadly, we don't know the units here. They don't tell us the units. So we don't really have any units to put. It's just 20. You could call it 20 units if you wanted to. Here, I give you the scale. Right? I give you the scale. Every 1 inch is worth this. So how many feet does 3 3/4 represent? Sorry if this is a little weird to read. I think the computer kind of... This is just my 3 3/4. But that's kind of tricky to type into a calculator. What decimal could I use? Yeah, 3/4 is 0.75. So you could have also just multiplied by 3.75. Because 3/4 is 0.75. Questions on this one? Yeah, so I should have drawn a second x up here. X squared and 2x, it's really just trying to mess with you, putting the 2 in a different spot. Like this 2 is saying we have x squared. This 2 would be saying we have 2 x tiles. That is not the same as x squared, right? X squared. And guys, this is not what I'm looking for on your paper. I look for some kind of like writing, or I mean, yeah, you can draw it as a picture. But like x squared is a square tile. It's x by x. Whereas x, what's the end part of x? 1. Always, right? This, everything could change. As x changes, x squared, the whole thing is going to change. But my x tile, as x changes, 1 stays 1. Right? This can get longer and longer and longer, but it's always just going to be 1 tall or 1 wide, right? But this, as it gets taller, it gets wider. As it gets wider, it gets taller. Like, they will change together. 2 more, and then it's your time to work. Some of you, I think, got confused when I said in 2 different ways. Guys, area, if you need a reminder that area is length times width, please write that down. So when calculating the area, we show length times width. That's what I meant. So my 4 comes from right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. The end of the x tile is always 1. 1, another 1, another 1, another 1. Then we got an x, we got another x, and we got 3 more. So we really have 2x plus 3. When we multiply those, or when we count, you can do the multiplication, or we can just count. 8 x's, 12 constants. Area. Questions? And in 15, our area and perimeter. Perimeter is honestly trickier. Guys, we got to remember, perimeter is the outside, area is all of the inside. But the outside got weird here because of this side, our left side here. So if you need help, if you need to make some notes, how long would this be? No, it's just the blue. Don't overthink it yet. That would have been x, right? But our edges here, if we just do here to here and here to here, we don't have the entire x, right? We're missing something, which is where Monsef just said x minus 1, because if I look at this and this, the only reason I don't have x is I'm missing that section, which we know would be a 1. So my blue would have been x, but my red is x minus 1. Questions? You have the last 8.5 minutes to either by yourself or with a partner work on the follow-up. But I would right now, or I mean, if you don't want to have to rip them apart and restaple whatever, at some point these need stapled together. When you turn the follow-up in, the original mastery gets turned back in with it. I'm going to put the homeworks back up on the first screen of like, if you didn't turn these in, you should. So if you did not turn these in last week, you should now. And it is just your time to work.